Boom. Hi, everyone. This is Jason. Welcome back to the show. Joining me today is River, the second half of Satoshi Sisters. And she is a technical analysis. She's been in the crypto space for a number of years. So we're going to get her insight into technical analysis and in the space. River, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so first off, let's talk about your background. How did you first get into cryptocurrency?
So I had always kind of heard about Bitcoin. I never really got interested in it until much later. Actually, around 2017 is when I started to get really interested into it. I was living in, actually, it was probably a little bit before, around the start of 2017. I was pregnant with my son, and basically I didn't have I live in Brazil, so it's a little bit difficult to work in Brazil, and especially not being, I speak the language but I'm not fluent in writing the language, and so finding a real job is a little bit difficult. And so I spent a bit of time, my mum has done it for Lisa has done it for such a long time, so I just thought I would start to learn as well. And I put my focus into Elliott Wave. I loved, I come from a mathematical background. So, the ability, when I first started looking at these charts, I thought, I want to be able to predict what happens. Like, I was so obsessed with being able to predict what happened. And, the beauty about the style that I use, which is Elliott Wave, but I'm really, really technical on the Elliott Wave, and I'm really, really specific with the rules and all those kind of things, which a lot of Elliott Wavers aren't really. But I got addicted to the rules and the ability to predict trends and the probability behind it. So yeah, I that's basically I learned. I spent probably a year learning, and I'm always still learning more. As you move through the space, I don't think you ever stop learning at any point in your life. But it took me probably, I don't know, 1 to 2 years to be really, really, something special, kind of outstanding.
Nice.
Yeah.
So speaking of Elliott waves, so technical analysis in general, right?
Yeah.
Like in my conversation with Lisa, we were talking about how a lot of people, for some reason, think crypto trading and forex trading are foreign to each other, that they're not the same
Yeah.
thing.
Well, they're not really, but yeah.
Well, they're not really when you think when you take it past the exchange level.
Yeah.
When you're on the exchanges, you're changing one currency for another.
Yeah.
So when you first started learning technical analysis, how did you start? For example, if a person wanted to start with technical analysis right now,
Yeah.
what would you say would be the first thing they would need to do?
I think you need to, when you start in technical analysis, because there are so many different types of technical analysis, and you need to be able to find the style that really suits you, because not every style is going to suit everyone. And there are so many styles that are very successful in so many different ways. A lot of people, they use the OB blocks, or, supports resistances, a ton of there's so many. Some people use the indicators, they use these little bots, that pre-programmed bots. There are so many different ways to analyze the market. The reason why I chose Elliott Wave is because there isn't really a way to predict further in any other method. So while you can, on using OB blocks, you can predict, what data you already have, or, you can use support and resistances only until a certain level, kind of thing. What I found is that to be really great, I think, especially in the macro kind of side, you needed to be able to predict that longer term trend, and to be able to see the bigger picture. So for someone who's starting off in trading, or analyzing the markets, because both don't necessarily have to go together. A good
Right.
trader isn't necessarily a good analyst, and a good analyst isn't necessarily a good trader. So I think you need to really decide what you want to focus on, because trading in itself is an emotional battle. It's an emotional, physical battle with yourself. It brings out all of the worst values, greed, all these things. And so that battle to be a good trader it's not really only about the analysis. It's really more about yourself and how you deal with those situations when you're
Right.
faced with greed and when you're faced with, all these not so nice values that you kind of
Yeah.
take on.
Yeah. 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 That's true. You're 100%
Yeah.
right there. Well, but to your point about crypto and versus forex trading.
Sorry, I went off a little bit tangent there, but
No, 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 no,
yeah.
no. This is perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So okay, so for someone who who's just getting in and they have a
Yep.
background in forex,
Mm-hmm.
what should they know about crypto trading that's different?
Right. So when you're coming from Forex and you're coming into crypto, you've got to understand that when you trade 100 times on Forex with, 1% moves, that you can't do that with crypto. You just
Mm,
can't. Because
okay.
what you're doing when you're trading Forex, you're trading, I don't know, maybe a 20, like a 0.5% move, or even maybe less sometimes, um, a tenth of a percent or whatever. That's what they take their profit on, because they're using 100 times margin on that to get that, that small profit.
Right.
um, and so when you're coming from a forex background, you got to understand that crypto is extremely volatile, and that it moves on, it's not unnormal for it to move 5, 10, 20% a day. That
Yeah,
happens quite frequently.
that's true.
So those high leverage positions are really not suitable for crypto at all. And I believe that any crypto exchange that offers those kind of ridiculously high leverage trades are basically really, really scammy. Like like, because you can't trade crypto on 100 times, because as soon as it moves, you've basically, like, you can get really, really lucky. You can
Right.
absolutely get really, really lucky, but you're better off just throwing a dice or going and playing roulette at the casino.
True. Yeah. And the one thing we do have a problem with is in space is putting a lot of money into stuff that is kind of sketchy to begin with.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, okay, so we're in the market now
Yep.
and we're seeing a lot of fluctuation in price currently.
Yep.
To your point actually.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is driving that? Because we saw here, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. For example, we're talking about Bitcoin, right? And right now it's trading at I'm gonna cut this out, by the way.
Yep.
$7,377 is what it shows
BTC.
on
Yeah.
BTC, right? And it dropped down from 75.16.
It
Oh,
does that. But you've got to understand also that from my perspective as an Elliott waver, those things happen. The market never moves in a straight line. There's always there's corrections. It runs, and it depends. What it matters is the overall trend. On a bigger picture scale, we're back. We're in a bear trend. I don't think there's anyone that can doubt it at this point, that we're in a bear trend for BTC. But there, along the way, there have got to be corrections that can't just go straight down either. So there's going to be those moves that come up and correct it, and that little burst of hope, and you see CT going crazy, and oh my
right.
God, the bull market's back, and whatever else. And don't take profits. And so when that correction comes, and then it goes back down to where it came from and lower.
Right.
Um, Honestly, I think that a lot of the space at the moment is quite a joke, to be totally honest. But
Well, yeah,
um,
right. Well, I
as
mean,
a bigger picture, I mean,
if you think about the way that, I mean, market sentiment plays a lot in the way people trade,
it
right?
does. It does.
And
Emotions are certainly a huge
emotions,
part of
right?
it. Yeah.
And if you didn't like what I got into crypto in 2016,
Yep.
right? So I saw when we went up to 19,000.
Yeah.
So dropping down $300 doesn't bother me,
Yeah.
because I've seen a much bigger crash.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a lot of I don't know, just like it just seems to be so antagonistic on in crypto Twitter right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the crypto space where we're just taking shots at each other,
Yeah.
and none of it seems to be helping. It all seems to just be driving negative. So, do you think that that has something to do with the amount of fluctuation we're seeing right now, just all the
I think
negativity?
I think the negativity comes from somewhere because what we're seeing right now is, the crypto bubble. That rise up to 20,000 was not organic. It was hyped up. It was massive. It was this massive thing. However, back in 2016, SegWit was added to BTC, and so the structure of what Bitcoin was changed fundamentally, and so that hyped up run, and then furthermore, the bull market that followed it was just that correction of actually that, it wasn't really meant to reach those levels. And what we're seeing right now with that run up to 10,000, sorry, it went up to 13,000. That was a very necessary, because after such a big drop, that's a very necessary correction that happened in the market, also as kind of like a second chance for people for those who got in, at the end of that bull market, 2017, and potentially bought, within that hype, between 15 and 20,000, because it basically took a week to get from 15 to 20,000.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of people still holding on to those bags. A lot of people who have been sitting in a loss for a really, really, really long time. And that to me, that run up just recently was a really big opportunity for people to kind of salvage their losses to some extent. And
Well, and that's true because, and someone pointed this out, that a lot of the hostility is just bag holders trying
yeah,
to,
it is. Yeah, it
and
is.
it's like, well,
You've no difference. Like, are you trading Bitcoin or BTC, or are you hodling it? Because fundamentally, I don't know what your opinion is on this, whether you've researched or anything, but I mean, fundamentally, BTC, it doesn't represent Bitcoin at all anymore. It doesn't represent anything that is written in the white paper. So at this point, if you're hodling BTC, you're hodling, a dead dream, a dream that's passed, a dream that, Blockstream has done everything in its power to destroy from the inside out.
Mm. Well, we're not going to go there. But now something that is an interesting topic is the whole hodling thing.
Yeah.
Because, if you're actually trying to grow an economy on a currency, holding on to it and hoarding it is not how you want to do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't help. If I have $1 million, that's great. But if the $1 million doesn't circulate, that's not going to build an economy.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I mean, that's the one thing that fascinates me about the space is you have a lot of people who say they want to grow an economy, but they aren't doing anything to actually do it.
No, exactly.
So it's like, well, what are we doing here? We're just holding code. I mean,
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's a brilliant point. Essentially when you're hodling, and the thing is that back in 2017 as well, is that all these ICOs started popping up, and so you have all these millions of ERC tokens on Ethereum chain, and then all these other blockchains and anonymous coins and whatever else that started to pop up to be kind of competitors of what Bitcoin is. Because why? Because the vision of Bitcoin, which was BTC, was destroyed. And so all these little tokens popped up to try and fill the needs that, essentially Bitcoin is capable of doing purely on its own.
Kind of
and if you think about it, like people
are
are diversifying their portfolios in all these little shit coins that do, one thing each. Who do you think is going to use it, one token for every single function of life? It's not ever going to work like that.
Well, I mean, you think that there's over 2,000 different cryptocurrencies all claiming.
How are you going to manage a wallet with 2,000 shitcoins in like just to use every day? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, it doesn't. And I mean, the U.S. dollar, and love it or hate it, the U.S. dollar is one thing that can be used for multiple purposes.
It is, yes, currently, but it's also very inflationary.
Right. Well, but I mean, as far as a use goes,
yes.
like if you want to buy a car, or if you want to buy a house,
you can use absolutely. Fiat is king right now. Yeah.
Right. And I think the infighting that we're having is negating the point of that. I mean, no matter which Bitcoin you're into, the whole purpose was a currency.
Yes, exactly.
At the end of the day. So
that's why people got excited about Bitcoin.
Yeah. So, but if you're not going to use it that way, I mean, I look at some of the people online who are fussing about just, well, it's just noise.
Yes. Yeah.
And, it's like, well, none of this is helping. None of this is going to make someone who's not actually in the bubble want to get in the bubble,
Yes.
because
Exactly.
all I see on Twitter are people taking pot shots at each other. And it's
Yep.
like, well, how does that help? You don't see,
It's like we're all in the zoo.
right. I mean, it's true. I mean, you don't see Visa taking pot shots at MasterCard. I mean,
No.
so it's,
No.
it's
And
just,
Bitcoin is essentially meant to overtake Visa and MasterCard. And that's certainly not going to happen in the form of BTC, at least not in the way that it is.
right. Well, I mean, okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because
Yeah.
I mean, you have three different camps, major
Mm-hmm.
camps that make up
Yep.
Bitcoin, right? You have
Yep.
the Bitcoin BTC,
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin SV. So, I mean, as far as protocols go, and I don't know how much of this you can speak to, what
Yep.
makes them different from each other? Like, if someone were getting in, and
Yep.
of course they've heard Bitcoin, but why
Mm-hmm.
should they look at Bitcoin SV, for example?
Well, for example, have you read the white paper?
Yes.
Okay, so you would understand that BTC actually doesn't represent anything that's in the white paper currently. It's really, really common for Blockstream to use certain words of what is in the white paper and spread those, and distort some of what Satoshi has said in his Reddit post and all that kind of stuff as truth.
Mm,
The fact is that BTC was destroyed when they added SegWit. They were even before that, when they wouldn't increase the. I'm sorry, can you hear the banging? My neighbors are really annoying.
no, I can't. No, I
But
can't.
good.
Good. Go ahead.
So we have 1 megabyte blocks on BTC, and then now the addition of SegWit, which basically it helps. It's basically the death of BTC. But anyway, I won't go too extreme on you. Fundamentally, you can't use BTC. The transaction fees are too high. You can't, what BTC does, and now this whole lightning thing is another thing that totally destroys the vision of BTC. Because if everyone has to have a node, can you imagine every single person having a node? Because I can't, because half of the population could not even be able to afford a node.
Right.
Especially not the electricity that it uses to, validate transactions. And by the way, a lightning node, one of those little Raspberry Pis, it can't validate any transactions anyway. They can't. That little tiny node does not have a say in what happens and what is mined and what blocks are accepted or not.
Mm.
So that's BTC totally. It's not even the
So
vision of Bitcoin anymore.
how would Bitcoin SV be different?
Well, Bitcoin SV is the Bitcoin. It's the original protocol. They've brought it back because also what BTC have done is they've removed a whole lot of its functions. They removed a whole heap of opcodes, which have been restored in BSV. A lot of its functionality was taken out. A lot of the coding was removed and to be replaced by third-party companies that go off-chain. And so the idea of Bitcoin and of blockchain is to have a ledger, a public ledger that everyone can verify, that it doesn't mean, if everyone can verify something, it doesn't mean that everyone has a Raspberry node. It means that you can access the blockchain on whatever device you have. And you can today, you can go to the Block Explorer and you can verify transactions.
Mm.
So with that in mind, Bitcoin is restoring the original protocol. They're working really, really hard to scale, because only a blockchain that can scale, that can service the entire world, is going to survive. Microtransactions is also a big killer, which is not possible at all on BTC. To send $1, it often costs you more in fees to send in BTC. So that's the fact of the matter right now on BTC. But with BSV, we can send half of a cent, a tenth of a cent, even less right now, and it costs literally nothing.
Right.
So
So,
yeah,
well, let me ask you a question on that, and I'm sorry to
yeah, go
interrupt you.
for it.
Um, so why aren't we seeing more? Um, what do you think is causing the slow in people using Bitcoin SV versus Bitcoin? For
I think
example,
yeah,
if
go
I
for it.
go to the App Store,
Yep.
I can find any number of wallets that support BTC,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have as many that will support BSV. So what do you think's the slowdown there?
Well, you've got to understand as well that we got hijacked twice. So we went from the chain has been, basically saved twice. So we went from Bitcoin Cash and then we've moved into BSV. Both times, the developers, the thing is that, okay, let's the developers who develop applications, who develop the use cases for Bitcoin, and it can be any blockchain, it can be Ethereum, whatever. The developers who develop on top of it, because essentially what Bitcoin is, as fundamentally it is, it doesn't matter if it's BTC, it doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin Cash, it doesn't matter at all. It's the plumbing. So Bitcoin is the 20-lane highway prepared for the future, basically.
Right.
So, to be able to have all those transactions, to be able to, use microtransactions, because what you got to imagine also, and I think that the minds are too small right now, is that every single action that you do on the internet, that, we're coming into smart homes soon. It's not going to be long before, majority of the houses in the first world countries are, smart homes, smart fridges, smart appliances. They're all going to interact with the internet. And so everything right now, as the way that the internet works right now, anyone can hack you, anyone can view your data, anyone can steal your data. Every time you go, those cookies that are all over the internet, they're taking little bits of your data and they're not paying you for it.
Right.
They're just stealing your data and selling it off for their own profits. And so what Bitcoin is meant to do is to monetize all the data, every single piece of data, so that you not only have privacy, but if you choose to share your data, you can earn profits off that data as well. And the whole functionality of the internet is going to change. And that is just simply not possible on BTC nor BCH.
Gotcha. And that, yeah, that hash war was interesting. The whole
Yeah.
BCH ABC, and then yeah, I watched that, and I mean it was the weirdest thing because we were watching to see hash rate, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, okay, there's a football game on right now, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come back to this later. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but that's very insightful. Thank you for providing that.
Thank you.
I think the clarity, because my personal opinion is that we spend too much time fighting each other instead of asking what's your opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I
And if
also agree. And I get all the trolls from both sides. I get the BSV trolls, I get the BCH trolls, I get all the trolls. I get them
right.
all. But that no one, and when someone asks the right question, you can get the right answer that you seek for, and you can go off and you can do your own research and you can, verify
Right,
and
and make your own conclusions.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what's important. And like someone who is listening to this or
Yeah.
watching this can then go and look into Bitcoin SV for themselves and
Yeah,
make their own
exactly.
decision.
Yeah.
It's not the one thing that I try to maintain is it's not my job to tell a person what to do.
No, of course not.
Right? It's my job
Yeah.
to show you what's out here and let you
Yeah.
make your own informed decision.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I thank you for coming on today to give that side
Thanks for having me.
of the story. So, where can we find you online if we would like to connect with you?
So on Twitter, I'm Riverish333. I've got a Discord group, but YouTube as well, River Crypto. But yeah, that's basically it at
Yeah,
the moment. A
guys.
whole heap of BSV social medias, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, guys. Make sure you subscribe to River's YouTube channel. She does a lot of technical analysis, a lot of good information there. So we'll link you into this video, and then
Thank you.
we'll put your Twitter and everything in the description.
Cool.
All right. Thank you, River, for joining me today. I really
Thanks so
appreciate
much
it.
for having me.
All right. Take care.
See ya.